My name is Vaughan Clark. Today I'm going to talk about how I make tailor-made plans for the people I work with. So everyone is on a slightly different plan depending on their history with food, their um, health needs, their metabolism, and also their preferences. Some people prefer to be vegan, others are fine eating meat. So they're all different, always different amounts, and um, different food types, depending on the person. So the way I start is to remove all foods that trigger cravings. So this will vary from person to person. Um, if you have a history with binge eating, um, on sugar in particular, um, then um, I think, especially at the beginning, it's really important to put down sugar, um, if you can't eat it in moderation. Um, it's it becomes like an addictive substance, and once we start eating it, we can't stop. So the easiest way I have found to avoid cravings for sugar is to stop eating it, and then with time the cravings go. So that's the first thing. Um, Now, over time things change and people can find that they can tolerate a little bit sugar down the road. But I think it is helpful to start with that boundary to get into the habit of not having it, to get out of the habit of binge eating it on it, basically. And then for some people, bread and any flour based product, like pasta, even rice pasta or anything like that, can be an issue. Crackers, things like that. So that will vary from person to person. Some people are fine with bread, others aren't. And once we've established what foods trigger cravings, the next thing we do is put boundaries around other foods. Now, again, this will vary from person to person depending on their background with food. Um, and But one of the most basic boundaries I put in is eating a set number of meals a day, usually 3 meals a day, and there can be a few snacks. And this is helpful because it helps us become conscious of when we're eating, when we're not eating, having a boundary around, it's not like we mindlessly then go into the kitchen and pick up, whatever we want off the counter as we're passing. There's a consciousness. Okay, no, I eat at breakfast, at lunch, and dinner time, and that's when I eat. I sit down at the table with my knife and fork and my food in front of me, and I eat it consciously, and that gets us out of the habit of this unconscious eating. Um, so that's a typical boundary that we would put in place, and then within that, some people find that they really need a boundary around portion control. Um, Others are fine with just eyeballing the amount of food they require. Although at the beginning, I think in order to get an idea of portion sizes and what's an appropriate portion size, it isn't any harm to weigh um, um, carbohydrates, proteins, vegetables for a time. Now, some people love the freedom this gives them, so they want to do it indefinitely. Others find that that's not for them, and they don't need to. They feel that they can trust their instincts when it comes to portion control. I myself have way more peace when I'm weighing portions. Now I can have a meal without um, weighing it, but I find that it takes from my peace. So so that's the way I work with people. And then of course you'll get people who are vegan, or people who don't mind eating meat, or people who just don't want to eat grains, and that's fine. We adapt the food plan for those sort of people. And the other thing then is underlying health conditions. So if somebody has osteoarthritis, or they've got um, stomach cramps, constipation, hormonal imbalances, all that sort of thing, then once we're established with food boundaries and on a plan, and we're not binge eating and not overeating, then we can start working on specific foods um, to either include in the plan or remove from the plan to help us to get to optimal health. Um, but I don't encourage getting into that right at the start. I think the most important thing, especially if you have a problem with binge eating and overeating, is to establish a habit of regular meals, conscious eating, knowing where boundaries are for you, and that will bring, not only will that reduce your stress levels, but not binge eating on sugar and refined foods will drastically improve your health. And so after that, then we can look at other maybe intolerances or allergies that mightn't suit. And as time goes by, then people realize, God, I'm really having a craving for that. For example, some people are fine with coffee, other people aren't. Some people can actually have a drink every now and again. Other people, it's an absolute no-no. Everyone is so different. Some people find fruit really compulsive and find that they don't have any peace. They're just longing for that fruit all day, and find it easier if they just don't have fruit at all. So everyone's a little bit different. I didn't eat out for a long time, and now I enjoy eating out. I find that that's okay. What happens over time is that certain boundaries you want to tighten up around, and other boundaries you feel like, okay, I can relax a little bit here. So there's a sort of an intuitive thing that comes after a time. Once we start to get comfortable with ourselves, once we are, once we know what peace feels like, then we can start pushing the boundary slightly to know where our limits are. And everyone's slightly different. Some people have no problem eyeballing a meal and going, okay, that's about the right amount. I'll just have that for my meal. Other people find that really difficult to do. So that's how I work with people. I treat everyone as an individual, coming from their own place with their own individual needs, and I work with that. It definitely requires a lot of help at the beginning, like weekly chats at a minimum to keep on track, and I do that as well. And anyway, I hope you found that helpful. Take care.